Okay. I want to welcome everyone to our August 27th, 2018 City Council workshop. Let's see here. The first item on the agenda is presentation on Open Meetings Act and Public Information Act. This will be conducted by our city attorney, Mr. Wayne Olson. Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that we traditionally do on an annual basis, just as a refresher to council members and as a benefit to newly elected council members. We've had a lot going on in the city the last few months, and we've got a little bit delayed in doing the presentation this year. But also because of some of the issues that have been raised, we thought it would be a good idea to do this in public this year and let the citizens see what it is that we deal with on a regular basis through the Open Meetings Act and the Public Information Act. So I'm going to go through this, and I'll go through it fairly quickly because there's a lot to cover, but certainly if any of the council has questions, please stop me and ask questions, or you can ask me after I'm through if you'd like. So overview of topics. Tonight we're going to cover the Open Meetings Act and the Texas Public Information Act. And again, in the interest of time, those are the two topics that I'm going to cover tonight. But what I want to do at a future agenda is talk about some of these other issues that apply to cities doing contracts and city council members and other officials of the city being subject to these new rules that have been adopted by the state. There's a lot of special rules that apply to running a government now, and it's always good to be familiar with how those might apply in any particular situation. So let's start off with the Texas Open Meetings Act, because that's an act that most citizens are familiar with. This is an act that has well-intended intentions, but unfortunately has some consequences that make it difficult for citizens to understand why we do things the way that we do. But one thing that we all know is that everything that this city council does as a public body has to be subject to the Open Meetings Act. And we need to be very mindful of the fact that we've got to abide by the act at all times. So in general, what citizens have a right to know under the Open Meetings Act is that everything we do as official action, everything that the council wants to discuss that involves public business, has to be at an open meeting. And it has to be posted at least 72 hours in advance before we can take action or discuss any particular topic that relates to public business. So a quorum of the city council cannot discuss public business unless it's posted on an official agenda. And how many members is a quorum? With this council, it's 5. Under the city charter, it's 5 members of the council, not counting the mayor. So it takes 5 council members to make up a quorum of the city council. So to post something on an agenda, what kind of notice must be given? You have to give very basic notice to let the citizens know the topic that you're going to discuss, and you have to tell them when, where you're going to talk about it. And depending on how important the matter is, you may have to be more detailed, more specific in what the topic is that's posted. We have rulings from the Attorney General that say you can no longer use topics like old business, new business, personnel matters, or litigation matters, because most citizens wouldn't know what that is. We're going to talk about it if that's all we post. So we try to be as specific as we can to let the citizens know what type of action might be taken by the city council. Okay. A couple of exceptions to the general rule is that the city council can receive information about community interests without having the specific notice put on the agenda. This is something we do every meeting. Art gives the presentation of current events that are going on, and as long as no action is taken and possible action is not discussed, and it's just for information purposes, then that does not have to be specifically posted on the agenda. So what is an item of community interest? These are the types of things that fall under that category. It's recognizing persons who have accomplished something, such as the other night when we had the presentation for the Little League softball champions, stating holidays, stating road closures, things along that line. And again, no action can be taken by the council, but it's informational for the citizens just to know what's going on in the community. Okay, is an agenda posting indicating public comment adequate notice? And we have that in Haltom City listed under Visitor Citizens Forum here. And the courts have said that is adequate as long as the city council just receives information from citizens and the council doesn't deliberate and doesn't try to take any action on the matter. The Attorney General ruled back in 2000 that we can't comment or deliberate on things that come up from visitors and citizens' comments that aren't properly posted. And I know this frustrates citizens sometimes. They come up with very legitimate issues that they would love to have the council weigh in on. And we're constantly saying, since it's not posted, we can't take any action. And we're very limited in what we can do in that regard. But there's a reason for that. The law handcuffs us in being able to discuss things or take action on things that haven't been posted 72 hours in advance. So what we can do is we can tell them to get with one of our staff members to try to work out the issue, or we can place the item on a future agenda for discussion and action, or we can respond with specific factual statements. So if somebody just had a question about something and we wanted to give them factual information about what our policy is or what actually applies in Haltom City, we can do that without violating the law. But the purpose of a visitor citizens forum is to allow citizens to speak, to tell you something that they've got a concern about. It's not for the purpose of having a discussion back and forth between citizens and the council. And that's what we have to be mindful of. Even if there might be some very worthwhile things to say to the citizens, we're not allowed to do that, unfortunately, under a visitor citizens forum. Okay, what right does the public have to speak on a particular agenda item? This is an often confused misconception by a lot of citizens. The Open Meetings Act allows citizens to know what's going on with the government. It allows the citizens to see what type of action the city council is going to consider, what you're going to be voting on, what is happening in the city. And it gives notice of the time and place of the meeting and allows citizens to attend the meeting and watch and learn what's going on with their city. But an open meeting is not one where citizen participation is allowed by law. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite. Open meetings allow the public to observe the open portion of the meeting, and it does not give them a right to speak on a particular matter unless it's a public hearing. And that's something that is controlled by state law or your ordinances. Certain types of actions require public hearings, such as zoning cases, such as certain tax ordinances. You've got a public hearing tonight on your tax rate, and whenever something's a public hearing, then any member of the audience has a right to speak on that subject matter, subject to rules that are adopted for presentations. And you can put reasonable time limits on speaking, but a public hearing is something that is only allowed in certain circumstances, and those are the only opportunities that citizens by law have a right to speak on. The rest of the time, citizens are able to watch and listen and hear what you do, but they're not allowed to speak on the particular matter. Now, every once in a while, we have situations where we do allow citizens to speak on matters that aren't public hearings, and that's the prerogative of the council. If you want to allow them on any given item to speak on something that you think getting public input would be of benefit, and the council certainly has a right to do that. We defer to the mayor, who's the presiding officer of the city council, to make those decisions because that's his role. We have situations like at the last meeting where we actually had a public hearing posted on the agenda for an item that was not supposed to be a public hearing. But because it was posted on the agenda and caused some confusion, it was my advice to go ahead and open it up for citizens to speak on it. And we did that, and I think that's the appropriate way to handle it. But overall, most of your agenda items are not going to be public hearings, and citizens are not allowed to speak as a matter of right. Again, what we've just been talking about. Again, budget, annexation, zoning, or by state law, public hearings. Okay, next, let's talk about something that occurs from time to time, and citizens sometimes get upset about this when you've got council members who are discussing items before the council meeting. The real key here is whether or not a quorum of the city council is discussing public business. If a quorum discusses public business, then it has to be posted as an open meeting. But the mere fact that two members are discussing an item of public business is not a violation of the law. What we have advised this council in the past, and citizens should know this, is one of the concerns is we don't want a quorum of the council talking about things, making up their mind in advance. It's one thing for council members to talk to each other about whether they have a perspective on a particular item. It's another if the council members are trying to line up votes in advance and doing that not at a posted meeting, because if 5 or more members of this council are involved in doing that, then that's a violation of the Open Meetings Act, and we do our best to avoid that. One of the things that is an issue right now in the law is what they call a walking quorum or a daisy chaining, and this has happened in the past, and there have been some criminal sanctions filed against members of city councils in other jurisdictions where 2 or 3 or 4 council members might talk about a subject matter, and they think, well, we don't have a quorum, therefore we're not violating the law. But then one of those people then talks to a 5th member of the council, and unintentionally what you've done is you've linked up 5 or more members of the council talking about the same item, and that can be what's called daisy chaining or a walking quorum, and technically that could be a violation of the law. And I've had numerous discussions with this council about that. We need to avoid doing that because the citizens have a right to know that you're conducting all of your business as a quorum out here in public at a posted meeting. Yes, sir.
On the second item, we apply 2 members, right? The second paragraph, is that for just 2 members? Okay.
2 members is okay.
For the whole thing, right?
3 members is okay. 4 members is okay.
Why?
5
They say 2.
5 is not. Yeah. That's just an example, Councilmember Trong. That's just an example.
Okay. Oh, and that's a...
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to stop at 2, but, again, the intention of the Open Meetings Act is for this council to do its business in public, and if you want to talk to some of your fellow council members, you have a right to do that, but you don't have a right to talk to 4 other council members. One of the other things we've talked about in the past up here is you could technically violate the Open Meetings Act through emails or texting, because that's a communication, that's a deliberation back and forth. It doesn't have to be verbal all the time. But one of the things we always advise the council is we have situations from time to time where the city manager might send information to the city council as a whole and say, just FYI, this is something that's going to be on the next agenda, whatever it might be. And what we always advise the council is if you get an email along those lines, never reply to all, because when you reply to all, you're sending out your opinion to every council member about that matter of public business. And that could be deemed to be a violation of the Open Meetings Act if the council members themselves are communicating with each other about the public business. So always avoid that. There are times when I have to give a legal opinion to the council, and I might send that legal opinion by an email. And I always say in my email, do not reply to all. If you've got questions, respond to me and I'll answer your question, but don't reply to all, because we don't want to get into that discussion, even though it pertains to legal advice that goes out.
More so, it's even more so with emails than it is just verbal, because now somebody's got proof that you're
Well,
colluding.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a written record for sure, and we'll talk about that in a little bit in the Public Information Act context. That becomes very difficult to deal with if you've been emailing back and forth. But we're going to cover that same example in a little bit. All right, so what we've been talking about for the last few minutes is what has to take place in public, what the Open Meetings Act requires, so that the citizens know what's going on. But there are some things that don't have to take place in public, and just so everybody understands that, there are rules under the Open Meetings Act that allow the City Council to go back in closed session and talk about certain things. And what those things are, number one is they can receive legal advice about pending or contemplated litigation or about settlement offers. Or the council can receive legal advice about any matter that involves attorney-client privilege. I, as a city attorney, represent the city of Haltom City. I'm an attorney. The city is my client. And the same as you would have attorney-client privilege with a lawyer that you hired, the city has attorney-client privilege with me. And any advice that I give to the city is confidential under the rules because it is attorney-client protected privilege. There's a reason for keeping things confidential when you talk to your attorney about it. Your attorney gives you advice on things. You confide in your attorney, and the attorney can't tell other people what you've told the attorney. It's all confidential. And the same thing happens here. In this case, my client is the city of Haltom City, but the city of Haltom City is represented by the city council as a whole. So I advise the council on these matters, and we can go back into executive session. You will see the mayor read the language on any given night that we're here, that we're going into executive session for different reasons, and typically it's to seek the advice of the city attorney, and that's under the attorney-client privilege rule that's in place. So the council can receive legal advice on any matter on the agenda. Other exceptions, we sometimes go into closed session to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. We can talk about prospective gifts, personnel matters, security devices, and economic development negotiations. There are a few other exceptions that we don't typically have to talk about. Security measures can turn into terroristic threats and the like, and there's special rules that apply to us talking about that. But these are the main rules why a council might go into closed session to talk about things. One thing to understand is, under the legal advice, we could go into closed session for the council to receive legal advice from me. The key word is receive legal advice. These other exceptions, the council may deliberate these things in closed session. So the difference is when we go back to talk about legal issues, it's not for the council to be able to deliberate that amongst themselves. It's to get legal advice from me so they know what decisions to make on things and know that what decisions they're making are in compliance with the law. These other items, such as personnel matters or purchase of property, they can deliberate. They can discuss amongst themselves the specifics and whether or not they think it's a good idea to spend this much money or that much money to buy a piece of property and the like. And that's authorized by the Act. And so we have to be very mindful of that whenever we go into closed session. Whenever we go back there, because the law specifically allows the council to go in closed session to talk about these things, I always remind the council that what's talked about back there needs to stay back there. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in the closed session stays in the closed session. It's confidential by law. There's a reason why the law allows the council to talk about those things. So when the council discusses those things back there, then they're not supposed to come out and talk publicly about it. Now, after we meet in executive session, it's typical that a council might come out here and make a motion to do something in compliance with the discussion that was had in closed session. But the actual details of what was talked about, those stay confidential forever.
What if in executive session there is one council member absent? Can another council or the mayor tell them what we discussed on that?
That can be done because the absent council member was entitled to be there. He can be brought up to date on what was discussed so he knows what's going on for future council agendas. It might also be interesting to the citizens that when we go into closed session, we are required to keep what's known as a certified agenda. And the city secretary will keep that. It's a written agenda that is confidential, that talks about who was in the executive session, what items were discussed, and whether any action was taken in closed session. That is sealed by law and cannot be looked at except with a court order. But it is a way of verifying that the council is only deliberating those things which it's allowed by law to deliberate. This is important stuff. There are penalties for violating the Open Meetings Act, one of it which is if the council takes any action in violation of the Open Meetings Act, then that action can be voided. A citizen can get mandamus or injunctive relief to prevent future violations of the act or to prevent action from being taken in violation of the act. There are all kinds of criminal penalties for violating the Open Meetings Act, and if you look at these, all of them include jail time, with the exception of failing to keep a certified agenda, which is a Class C misdemeanor, and that's just a fine. But this is important stuff. This is why I brief the council on an annual basis of why we need to follow the Open Meetings Act, because it's very important to the citizens, and it's also enforceable by the district attorney or the attorney general if he sees fit to do that. All right, moving on to the Public Information Act. I would just tell the council, I know that everybody up here knows that we follow the Public Information Act, that we try to do things by the law. There's a lot of people out there who have distrust for the government, and that's one of the reasons for the Texas Public Information Act. It allows citizens to obtain copies of public records so they can see what's going on. They feel like the government does try to keep things from them, and that's concerning to them. So the Public Information Act is one of those laws that it's a good law. Without a doubt, it's a good law to have, but just like the Open Meetings Act, it has some unintended consequences sometimes. So the Public Information Act basically applies to everything that the city maintains as information. It's written, produced, collected, assembled, or maintained in connection with city business. So anything that we get from whatever source, if it pertains to city business, is generally available for the public to look at. They can either get copies of it or just view it. And it's in whatever medium it might come on. So it's intended to allow citizens to see this information in the most convenient way. So it includes personal notes about public business. And one of the questions is, what about personal notes taken during an executive session if it pertains to public business? And my advice is, in the executive session, we should just talk about the matters. We shouldn't be keeping notes back there, because if a public information request is made, and I'm going to talk about this in more detail, and somebody asks for information that we might think is confidential, but maybe a council member wrote down advice that I've given back there that's attorney-client privilege, then we have to seek an attorney general opinion in order to withhold that information. And that delays the process, and it's expensive to do that, and it's just very unwieldy when you get requests along those lines. Emails on personal computers. This is something that used to be a gray area. It's not gray anymore. We have case law, and we have a change in the Public Information Act now that clearly states that if any council member uses a personal computer for public business, for city business, then if a public information request is made, that's public, and you have to produce it. You can't say, no, that was on my personal device, therefore it's not public. If it pertains to City of Haltom City business, it's public business. So be mindful of that. And
Hillary.
except for Hillary.
Hillary does that.
Yeah. So my advice has always been, it's better to use city official devices rather than your personal devices, because otherwise things get all tangled up in there. Now, council members do not have to give out personal information on their personal devices. And the mere fact that you've been doing public business on your personal computer or phone doesn't mean that everything on there is public. It's not. Only the things that are related to the city business are public. But it does mean that you have to deal with it. If we get a public information request, then if you've got information related to that request, you've got to assist the city in producing that information in an acceptable form that the citizens have requested. Personal email addresses are public. Text messages on your phone related to city business are public. And this is something that Bob brought up a while ago. When you're conducting business in writing by email or text message, then it is a record, and citizens have a right to see it, and you need to be mindful of that at all times. And it's difficult to deal with, because when something comes through the city, when something goes through the city secretary's office or the city manager's office, and somebody makes a public information request, then they know how to handle it. They know how to find that information, determine whether it exists. They can contact the other departments of the city to see if they have any related information. They can gather it, they collect it, they put it in a form that's responsive to the request, and they respond. But when a request is made and individuals might have some of that information on their personal devices, that just opens up a Pandora's box. How do you find all that information and gather it and collect it and get it to the citizens in a timely manner? And a lot of times citizens get frustrated because it takes longer than you think it should, just trying to gather the information and find out what's out there. But that's the world that we're living in right now. So be mindful, council members, that if we receive a public information request, you might be contacted to check your personal devices to see if you have any information that would be responsive to that. All right, information on social media. Is that public information? Postings on a Facebook page operated by the city, including public comments. Information that's wrong that's posted on a Facebook page. It's all public information, without a doubt. If it's kept in the connection with the transaction of official city business, this is public information that anybody's entitled to get copies of. So what happens if you've got information that is incorrect? Can it be deleted? I mean, sometimes that happens, believe it or not. People post things that aren't accurate. And, once that happens, can it be deleted? Yes, it can be deleted, but the city still has to keep a record of it for a period of time. We can't destroy it. We can take it down if it's inaccurate, but we cannot destroy it. We have to hang on to it, and if somebody were to make a public information request for something that was previously posted, then we would have to provide that to them. And that falls under the Records Retention Act. This I cannot emphasize enough. I mean, not only are records kept on your personal device public information, but they're also subject to the Records Retention Act, which means that you're not supposed to destroy them, except in accordance with the records retention schedule that's been adopted by the city. Your city secretary can give you more information on that. Depending on what it is, what type of information, what it pertains to, that's going to dictate what period of time you're supposed to keep those records. Every one of us who's a city official who transpires government business is subject to all of this. So again, my advice is it's best to do it through official public city mediums rather than your own personal accounts, but I understand the convenience of being able to talk to your citizens, your constituents, on your own devices, but just need to be aware of the ramifications of that. The other thing that's a concern is when you're doing business that way and it doesn't go through a city server, the city doesn't know about this, and we don't know what information you have or don't have. And So it's beyond the city's knowledge and beyond the city's control, and the city doesn't have access to it. And that's sometimes frustrating to citizens. They may know that something's out there, and what happens when you make a public information request? Well, that'll go through the city secretary's office. The city secretary will send out requests for everybody related to that topic to give whatever information they have. That would include perhaps council members or city staff members. But unlike other city email accounts, the city doesn't have control over individual accounts, and we have no way to access that information and no way to know whether it exists or not. All we can do is ask, and if it does exist, it's supposed to be turned over. Something that I have to deal with is if we ever end up in litigation and we're asked for information, and there are penalties if we don't turn over all the information that ever existed, and so we need to make sure that we don't delete incorrectly any information that does pertain to the litigation. So, any questions about this stuff?
Thank you, Wayne. Councilmember Watkins, did you have a question or a comment? Your light's on.
I did not write it down
Okay.
for Jane.
Are there any questions or comments from the council regarding Wayne's presentation? Seeing none,
Like I
next
said,
item.
Mayor, we can go over the disclosures and conflicts of interest and things like that at another meeting, but in the interest of time, I didn't want to go on for another hour.
Well, this is very informative, and we certainly appreciate the information. With that being said, we'll now adjourn into executive session pursuant to 551.071 and 072 of the Texas Government Code at 6:40.
Is there a Catherine Randall here tonight? Catherine Randall? Okay. Here.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to our August 27, 2018 City Council meeting. The time now is 7:12. The first item on the agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance by our Councilmember Ricky Brown. If you would, please rise.
May we bow our heads as we pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for being in our lives and guiding us. Thank you for the privilege to be able to gather and govern in a free and democratic society. We give thanks to the women and men who continue to fight for this freedom every day. Father, please watch over every employee of this city as they go about their daily routines to make our Haltom City the city that it is. Lastly, Father, guide this council as we work together and build a community that we can all be proud of. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, and welcome back. Moving right along to our announcements and events, our City Secretary, Art Camacho.
Thank you, Mayor. Announcements for August 27th, 2018. Road closings. Carson Street under State Highway 121 will remain closed for approximately 3 to 4 more months. However, the frontage road U-turns under State Highway 121 will remain open for the foreseeable future. Motorists are asked to pay special attention to the construction signage as various traffic lanes may temporarily close for a day or two. Please continue to visit the city's website to obtain the latest information, as weather may change or extend this time period. The city's website will indicate the latest information regarding these traffic changes. And remember to always slow down and use caution in construction zones. In community projects, soccer registration has been extended through September 1st. You can register online through the city's website or stop by the recreation center, and coaches are also needed. The Refresh BISD was a huge success, and thanks is given for all the support to help our local students and families. The following were given: 2,250 kids received school supplies, 25 schools were served by Refresh 2018, 26 churches were present, 51 businesses and civic entities also participated. There were 123 eye exams, 132 sports physicals, and 278 haircuts, with 618 volunteers present. 26,310 pounds of produce were also given out at this one big event. The Senior Citizens has a community picnic for grandparents and grandchildren on Saturday, November the 8th at 12 noon, and it is sponsored by Empower Brokerage. On Tuesday, September 11th, a ceremony will be held at the Veterans Memorial at 3113 Haltom Road from 8:30 to 9 a.m. In the public library, teen programs, family movie night, super science, Saturdays, adult GED, ESL classes, and other library activities are also listed on the library's website for their dates and times. Computer, mouse, and keyboard basics class will be taught on Tuesday, September 4th at 8:30 a.m. Internet basics will be taught Tuesday, September 18th at 8:30 a.m. The classes are free, but you must register, so you can call the library at 817-222-7786. The library will also be hosting their 10th birthday party. It will be Thursday, September 4th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., celebrating 10 years in the new building. Cake and light refreshments will be served. The city offices and facilities will be closed Monday, September 3rd for Labor Day. And now the fire department has several presentations they're going to be doing at this time with Fire Chief Perry Bynum.
Now can you hear me? Okay, now that's much better. Once again, tonight I'm going to share a couple of things that I think the council can be very proud of. The citizens can be very proud of too. We're going to talk about Kids Camp. We have a short video to talk about Kids Camp. The camp was between the police and fire departments. Councilperson Thompson worked very diligently with that. We have several others who are in the audience tonight that I want to recognize too. Once we complete this video. So I'm trying not to take a lot of your time, but I think right now with as much work as y'all are doing, this may help everyone in our community. So if you would get us started with our video. This is the police and fire camp. And thank you for the applause. Obviously, there's a lot of people involved with this. This is involved with the Fire Services Board, Citizen Fire Academy, Citizen Police Academy, Police Association, Fire Associations. They all played a big part of that. So, Chief Phillips, if you would come up and introduce your staff that you have here tonight. I always do it to him, don't I?
Mayor, City Council, City Manager, thank you all again for giving the city and the staff the opportunity to do this to the kids. My kids actually attended this camp, and they went to North Richland Hills Camp also this year, and they, a little biased, but they said the Haltom's was definitely a lot better. So, you know, it takes into account all the dedication from, don't introduce your guys, right? So,
No, please do. Go ahead if you want to. Hey, we're on the same team, brother.
Fireman 1, Fireman 2, no. You know, Officer Simmons, Community Services Officer, he really played a integral role in getting everything started and getting people motivated, officers motivated to come down there and take a part of it. The fire department actually witnessed this when it first started. Everybody was like, man, I don't want a bunch of kids running around here. And then once they seen the outcome and the kids and they become involved, it just continued to spread and get bigger. And the same thing with the fire or police department. You know, when you volunteer somebody to do something the first couple of years, and then they really enjoy coming to work, wearing shorts, playing in water, and doing that kind of stuff. So it's a very good relationship we're building with kids for the future.
Thank you, Chief. From the fire department standpoint, Fred Knapp, our fire marshal, Derek Wood, assistant fire marshal, and you see a lot of the fire guys are here tonight. They played a big role. So Suzanne Norris from the Fire Services Board and our CERT and CFA played a big part. Our volunteers, it's just amazing. They showed up every day. They were there. Herb Williams, he would check people in, check the kids in. So accountability is a big deal with this, right, for these little kids. So our future is bright. So this is some of the things y'all are doing as council. So you heard an applause out here, so now we're going to give y'all applause. So I just appreciate everything you do. So thank you. Fred, did I miss anything? Okay, great. Yes, Mayor.
Can we get everyone who was involved in putting that together? Can we get them to stand up?
That'd be great. Y'all stand up, guys. Suzanne, stand up. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that opportunity. The next little video we have, this occurred just this last week. So we talk about all the time about what we do in the fire department. We have a short video. When we don't get a lot of these videos that are this clean and this clear to show you what it looks like to fight a fire in the first minute and a half to 2 minutes of a fire. So once again, I'm not a doom and gloom fire chief, and that's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to glorify anything we do. I'm here to show you a short snippet of what these guys see when they pull up to a structure that's fully involved, that's rolling, and they go in and make sure people come out safe, and we preserve the property for our tax base in this community. So if you would, go ahead and show. This is just a short video. And right now you see they're getting their gear on. You see the fire in the back rolling out the front windows. They're doing a complete size up of what they're facing. They're giving assignments. You'll see him test his nozzle, make sure it's water. And now you see the fire going up to the second story. And this hadn't been just a few minutes. And now they're starting to put water on it. And they have their air packs on, full PPE. Go inside, and you see the fire that they're going into. And now it's blacking out. And trust me, it's not this clear in their mask because their condensation's in there. It's fogging up, so it's not this clear. Mayor, I just don't want to take up a lot of your time tonight because y'all have a busy night. You have a long night. This right here is just a chance for us to show you what it looks like when they first get on the scene to a working fire, what they're facing. So I just want to share that with y'all, just so you'll have that. So once again, I didn't do it, the guys do it. And they do it because of y'all. Y'all doing a great job, so thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving right along to proclamation, Hunger Action Month. Catherine Randall from the Tarrant Area Food Bank. Mr. Rex Phelps will be delivering the proclamation.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much. Thank you, Catherine Randall, for being here to accept this proclamation. So I'm just going to read it, and then I'll present it to you, okay? 1 in every 6 people in North Texas struggles with hunger and food insecurity, including 1 in every 4 children. And 13% of American households and 17% of American households with children do not consistently have enough nutritious food to eat. And children from families struggling with hunger may be more likely to repeat a grade in elementary school, experience developmental impairments in areas like language and motor skills, and have more social and behavioral problems. And partner agencies in Haltom City are distributed food by the Tarrant County Area Food Bank, which provides more than 2 million meals to over 47,000 households in 13 Texas counties monthly. And the month of September has been designated as Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to the reality of food insecurity and promote ways for individuals to get involved in the movement to end hunger, including volunteering, hosting food drives, and donating funds. Now therefore, it is to be resolved that our mayor of Haltom City, David Averett, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim September to be Hunger Action Month and thank the Tarrant County Food Bank for their work in the fight against hunger. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And you can talk to that.
Thank you so much, Mayor, council members. We are incredibly honored at Tarrant Area Food Bank to accept this proclamation declaring September as Hunger Action Month. And we greatly appreciate your support during Hunger Action Month and throughout the year. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing every day to support our mission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if you don't mind, to follow up that proclamation, I have a very special certification I'd like to share with the mayor and the council. Fred? Council, we have our Fire Marshal, Fred Knapp. Fred's been with our fire department for over 25 years. Just completed 25 years just a few weeks back. And in front of you, you see a certification. This is the Executive Fire Officer Program. It's a master's degree program. It takes 2 years to go through the National Fire Academy to complete this. Now, I say all that because Fred is the first person in the Haltom City Fire Department to ever achieve this certification. So, Fred, to say I'm proud of you, I can't say it enough, but I know the dedication it takes to get there. So, brother, keep it up. And if you want to say a few words, I'd love you to. And his beautiful wife, Heather's with him tonight just to celebrate this time. So, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Fred.
Well, Mayor and Council, this is an honor for me. They say in the fire service that this certification is the crown jewel. Very, very few, only about 2% of the firefighters in the country get into the program, and fewer than that actually finish it. National Fire Academy was founded in 1979 in Emmitsburg, Maryland, which is just 13 miles south of Gettysburg. It's a beautiful place. In '88, the Executive Fire Officer program was formed to train fire officer executives across the United States. And it's a privilege for me to go there, furnished by the federal government. The training is basically free. But it's a dedication, but it's a wonderful program that you can bring back ideas to your city and hopefully make us a safer and better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Moving right along to our monthly financial report, Ms. Fung, welcome.
Mayor and the City Council, it's a pleasure to present to you the July monthly financials. Okay, I'm very happy to say that the financials looks real good, and also everything seems to follow the budget. At the end of the month of July, we have a fund balance of about $47 million. And the revenue for the year so far is about $66 million. That is about 92%. And the expenditure for all the fund added together is about $56.6 million. That is about 67%. So that gives us a fund balance of about $47 million. And the largest fund for the city is the general fund. And you can see that we have received about $26.4 million in the general fund, which is about 95%. And the expenditure up to the end of July is about $22.6 million, which is about 80%. So right now, the general fund balance at the end of July is about $10.9 million. The largest revenue for the general fund is the property tax, and you can see that every single month it seems like following the budget. And so far we have received about more than 103% of the budgeted amount, which is about $9.2 million. And the second highest revenue we have is the sales tax. And the sales tax, you can see that we receive about $8.4 million, which is almost 92% of the budget. And as you know that we still have 2 more months to go, so I know that probably we will reach the budget and exceed it. And looking at the 3 years comparison, you can see this year almost every month is higher than the last year, except the November, because we have an adjustment here. Last year, November. Looking at the other cities, you can see that Haltom City has received about 19% more than last year for this month. And then for the 7 months altogether, it's about 10% higher than last year. So that concludes the presentation for the financial report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Fung. Are there any questions for our finance director from the council? Seeing none. Excellent presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Moving right along to our regular agenda, item number 2, minutes, consideration and/or action regarding the approval of the minutes for the August 6th budget meeting, the August 7th town hall meeting, and the August 13th regular council meeting. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding those? Seeing none, we're aligned for a motion. Dr. Trong.
Man, Council, I go ahead and make a move to approve 3 meetings. The one on August 6, 2018 on budget meeting, the August 7, 2018 town hall meetings, and the August 13, 2018 regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval. Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. That is for a second.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion for approval and a second. Are there any other questions or comments before we vote? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. Moving right along to ordinance agenda item number 3, which is ordinance number O-2016-023-15. Ms. Batchelor, welcome.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading for approval of a conditional use permit for tire and battery cell store uses in the M2 Heavy Industrial, locally known as 5711 Denton Highway. The applicant is requesting tire and battery cells. In addition to the requested uses, the applicant's services will include car audio and window tint, which are allowed by right. The hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday from 9 to 7. As part of the conditional use permit, ordinance, all services will be contained in the building. There will be no storage outside of any products. On July 24th, 2018, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended to deny ordinance number O-2018-2315 by a vote of 4-2. On August 13th, 2018, the City Council approved the ordinance number O-2018-23 by a vote of 7-0 with the elimination of auto dealer new and used. If you have any questions of myself or the applicant is also here. Again, this is second reading. And I think we have yes. So this is the property just north of White Creek on Denton Highway. The site plan for the building. The bay doors that do run through the building itself. Survey of the property. The saturation map including Watauga on the east side. Pictures of the structure from the street. Landscape area in front of the property. Parking lot on the east elevation. The building from the east side, from the west elevation and south side, facing north towards the transmission place, the gate opening between the two businesses, and the dumpster enclosure that needs a little bit of help. Again, this was presented on the first reading. There are 3 car dealerships in the area and 2 tire stores, but again, the car dealer use was removed from the ordinance.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions or comments from the council for Ms. Batchelor? Councilmember Weist.
Thank you, Mayor. Glenna, can you go back to the facade front?
The facade?
Yeah. Thank you. This might be a question for the property owner. I've been contacted by a few citizens about our previous meeting. They're wanting to know if the property owner or the tenant is going to do any notice the 2 colors of green, if they're going to do any outside beautification.
That's the remainder of what was there when it was Castrol, so that'd be a good question for the applicant.
Okay, are they here?
If you would please, sir, just state your name for the record.
Jordan Mosley. Yeah, the tenant, I'm the property owner, but the tenant will be painting it to match his business colors, yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nunn, do you have a question or a comment for either Ms. Batchelor or Mr. Mosley?
Yes, thank you. For Glenna? At the last meeting, you didn't have the notes from the P&Z meeting about why it was voted, I think, what, 4-0? And was it because of the sales of vehicles?
The main concern was the sales of vehicles and the storage, but they do have a basement area underneath the bays, so that was a relief to them that there was more than what at ground level.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other questions or comments from the council for either Ms. Batchelor or Mr. Mosley? Seeing none, thank you both. Excellent presentation, Ms. Batchelor. We are in line for a motion. Councilmember Nunn.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion that we approve ordinance number O-2018-023-15, parenthesis CU-006-18, second reading.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion for approval. Councilmember Grove.
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. A motion for approval in a second. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Bob? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, council. If you're looking at your agenda, agenda items number 8, 9, and 10, because those 3 do involve plats, I'm going to move those up, and they'll be next in line. So we'll begin with agenda item number 8, which is a replat being P-009-18. Again, Ms. Batchelor, you'll be here for the next 3.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is to conduct a public hearing and or consideration on the application of Pedro Alvarez for approval of a replat creating Lot 2R1 out of the Foreman subdivision, Haltom City, Lot 2 North 1/3, located in the SF1 single family, locally known as 2324 Harris Lane. The applicant proposes to create one residential lot. The primary purpose of this replat is to plat an existing lot done by meets and bounds of an existing tract which was platted. This is part of an originally platted lot that has been divided up into 3 lots. All 3 lots do appear to meet the ordinance. The 2 remaining tracts currently have residences on them. This lot does not. It was a substandard structure that was demolished in 2011. The property owner that owns the 2 lots south of this submitted a letter stating that she does not want to participate in the replat of the original lot. On August 14, 2018, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of P 00918 by a vote of 6-0. And if we'll look at the screen up here, this is the property about mid-block between 28th and Belknap. This is the lot that's being created. Aerial view of it being a vacant lot. This is the lot facing east, facing north on Harris towards 28th Street, facing south on Harris towards Belknap, again facing south. And if you have any questions, I'm available, or the surveyor is here also.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions or comments from the council for Ms. Batchelor? Seeing none, excellent presentation. Thank you. We'll now open up a public hearing at, let's see, what is it, 7:41 for anyone in the audience wishing to speak regarding this agenda item. Again, this is agenda item number 8. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:42. And are there any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, we're now in line for a motion. Councilmember Grow.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve replat Papa-009-18. Or that's P for the non-military.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval. Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. That would be for a second.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion for approval in a second. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Bob? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, council. Moving right along to agenda item number 9, preliminary plat for P-0011-18. Again, Ms. Batchelor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to combine these two because it is a preliminary and final plat, so it'll be agenda item number 9 and 10. This is P-0011-18 to conduct a public hearing and consider action on the application of Jerry Weekly for approval of a preliminary and final plat creating the Weekly Addition, Lot 1, Block 1, being all of 0.710 acres tract of land out of the J. Matthews Survey, abstract number 1051, locally known as 3901 Old Denton Road. The applicant proposes to create one commercial lot. The primary purpose of this preliminary and final plat is to plat an existing lot out of an abstract. The property currently is vacant. Prior to issuance of permits, a plat needs to be recorded with Tarrant County. On August 14th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary and final plat. And if you'll look at the screen up here, this is a property. It's triangular in shape, with this being Beach Street and this is Old Denton Road. This is the plat survey. That's the preliminary. That's the final. Again, an aerial view. This is looking north on Beach Street, with this being Old Denton Road. Looking to the east, facing west, facing south down Beach Street. And this is the site plan of the proposed development. It's a 3-tenant strip center. And this is a concept drawing provided by the property owner of their landscaping and parking and the design of the structure that they're proposing. Some more concept drawings that they provided to us that were also shown to P&Z. Layout of the landscaping. This was designed by City of Fort Worth because Beach Street is a Fort Worth roadway. And if you have any questions, I'm available. The applicant and the consultant are here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Batchelor. Are there any questions or comments from the council for Ms. Batchelor? Seeing none. Okay, excellent presentation. Now, before we open the public hearing, I do have a speaker's request card for James Pliska, and also Jerry Weekly. Do you want to speak now or wait till we open up the public hearing?
We'll just be readily available to answer any questions at the council meeting.
Fantastic, thank you, sir. And the same for Mr. Weekly? Okay, thank you. Well, with that being said, we'll now open up the public hearing at 7:47 for anyone wishing to speak regarding these agenda items. This is number 8 and 9 and 10. Agenda items number 9 and 10, the preliminary plat and the final plat. Is there anyone wishing to speak regarding these two agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:48. Before we take a vote, is there any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll take a vote on agenda item number 9 first, which is the preliminary plat. We are in line for motion for that. Agenda item number 9. Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to accept or have the council to approve P-0011-18, the preliminary plat located at 3901 Old Denton Road.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion for approval for agenda item number 9. Councilmember Weist.
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. We have a
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval and a second for agenda item number 9. Are there any other questions or comments? If you would, please signify your votes. Bob? And Councilmember Grow. Are you abstaining? Okay. So, okay. Well, I gotta wait for it to come up here. Will you let David know? Okay, motion passes 6 in favor with 1 abstention. Okay, now we're headed for agenda item number 10, the final plat, being P-0012-18. We're in line for a motion there. Dr. Trong.
And council, I go ahead make a move to approve final plat P-012-18, the property located at 3901 Old Denton Road.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval. Councilmember Weist.
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval and a second. Are there any questions or comments regarding this one? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Okay, this motion passes with 6 in favor with 1 abstention. Thank you, council, and thank you.
For moving us up.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving back to our agenda, we're now back to agenda item number 4, which is to propose fiscal year 2019 budget. Ms. Fung, welcome back.
Mayor and the City Council, before we go to the agenda item 4 and 5, I have a presentation which will summarize the budget and the tax rate. Okay, looking at the property tax rate, all of you know that there's an error there. The property value increased by 9.1%, and the average taxable value is about $96,000. And the current tax rate, if you know, it is about 66 cents and 818. And we have few proposals here that I received from council and all those different people. And we have the rollback rate, which is at 68 cents 926. And then we also have the current rate, which is 66 cents 818. And also we have the adjusted effective rate. This rate is the same for the general fund rate, and which will give a total of 65 cents 568. And also we have a point that is called the middle of the effective rate and the rollback rate, that's the middle of it, which is 0.65291. And also if we use last year's effective rate, which is 0.63817, and also the effective rate, which is 61 cents 656. So it's a lot of calculation here, and I have give you a sheet of 6 calculations there that will give you all the detailed information. Okay, so this is graphically to show you the assessed value as well as the current tax rate. So you can see that the current tax rate is 66 cents 818, and if we have the same, so this will what it look like. And you know that the assessed value is about $2.1 billion. Okay, so this slide gives you the information of the property tax rate, and I'm looking at, 2016, 17, 18, and 19. You can see that the total revenue that can generate from the property tax is, for 2016, is about $11 million. 17 is about 12.5, and for the current year, since we reduced the tax rate for more than 3 cents, so the total revenue is about $12.8 million. And if we use the same rate, it will generate about $13.9 million. And also, I gave you the effective tax rate as well as the rollback rate. Okay, looking at the other cities, this information is for tax year, the current tax year. You can see that these are the different tax rate from the surrounding city here, Northeast Tarrant County cities. And also they have the notes at why they have that tax rate and what are the changes from 2017 to 2018. So this is not the next year, this is the current year, because we don't have the information yet, because most of the city hasn't adopted tax rate, so I cannot update that yet. But you can see that for current year, using the taxable value as of last year's certified amount, you can see that Haltom City generate about $578 per household. That's the average. So you can see that Haltom City has the lowest. And also, this does not include the exemption that the city is giving to the senior citizen. We have an exemption of $50,000 for senior over 65. We also have a tax ceiling. That is to say, when you become 65, they set the ceiling for the property. So the property tax will only increase as if the tax rate is increased, but not the value of the property. Okay, so let's look at the financial for the city. Here, I'm giving you an overview of all the funds. You can see that the city, at the beginning of the next year, that is the end of this year, we estimate we have a total fund balance of about $38 million. And for next year, we estimate to have a total revenue about 77.7, and the expenditure about 92.4. So the fund balance is about $25.5 million at the end of next year. The largest fund we have, the general fund, we are using the current tax rate of 66 cents 818, which will give us a revenue of about $29.8 million for the general fund. But the expenditure about 32. So we are drawing down our fund balance to about 18% of the reserve percentage. And we will have enough for the debt service and the special revenue fund. Usually this is the fund that we accumulate the resources for specific purpose. And so we will have revenue about 3.7, expenditure about $4 million, and we will still have a $4 million fund balance. And the capital project fund, this is the fund that we will build the facility or the construct roads and different capital projects. And this fund, if we can use all the money, it should have a fund balance of 0. So a reduction of $10 million is not unusual. So if we can put all the projects on the ground, this will be 0, because that's what we want to do. And then the water fund, we begin with about $5.5 million. Revenue is about $23 million. This includes the proposed increase in the water and sewer rate. And the expenditure is about $24.9 million. Will give us a fund balance of about $5.3 million. And the drainage fund, we have revenue of about 1.8 and expenditure 2.3. So we will have a fund balance of about 465. You can see that the general fund will have a fund balance about 18% of the fund we serve, and then water fund about 21, and the drainage fund about 20%. Looking at the largest fund of the city, the general fund, you can see that there are changes from the current year to the next year. And for the coming year, we will have about $29.8 million revenue and $32 million expenditure. And so our fund balance will drop a little bit, and you can see that the fund balance, we predict to have about 28% at the end of this year, but next year is about 18%. Looking a little bit more detail of the general fund revenue, the largest is the sales tax. The property tax, we were similar because we are planning to have not much changes. The reason is, even though we will keep the same tax rate, part of the revenue will go to the debt service instead of going to general fund. And then sales tax, we have a 5% increase here. And then franchise, a little bit increase. License permit, this is a very conservative estimate, and will reduce about 18%. And then charges for service reduce a little bit. And then the fines, almost the same. And then other revenue, these are the consists of some revenue that may not be recurring. So that's why next year is reduced. And also the transfer, we need to transfer a lot more to the Economic Development Fund for some of the economic incentive. So looking at the general fund, you can see that the revenue increased a little bit, less than 2%. Okay, this is the graphically to look at what are the major sales, the revenue that we will receive in general fund. You can see sales tax is the highest, and then property tax, and then franchise, and the rest. Okay, looking at the expenditure, you can see that we're proposing to have about 13.4% increase in the expenditures. And as you know that most of the department, they are very, very much keep to what is supposed to be. And you can see police and fire increased quite a lot because police, we're adding 2 police officers, and also fire department, we're adding 1. We're adding 2 firefighters, and also included in this amount, we also have a fire engine in there. So that's why the changes is higher here. And then the other fund, because of the increase light fit service, because of the increase in the fuel cost, which is about 25%, so you can see that it is a little bit higher for the increase. But because the original amount is small, that's why the percentage is high. The same for the building maintenance, because we have some projects that we are going to do, like remodeling the fire station #1, and also the recreation center, and also the animal shelter. So that's why this amount, the percentage is very high here. Okay. Also, another thing I want to point out is the transfer. We need to transfer enough money for the economic development. So that's why the increase is high here. All right, so in the pie chart, it will show you who used most money, okay? That's the police and the fire and the general government and the rest of the departments. Okay, if you look at the general fund expenditure a little bit differently in another angle, like looking at how much is personnel cost, how much is operation, how much is capital project, and how much is transferring out to the other fund, you can see that personnel cost is always the highest for the general fund. The reason is we are service oriented. We lead the employees, so that's why it's usually is the highest. What did I do here? All right, and then operation and transfer out added together give you 100%. And graphically, you can see personnel 75% and the rest. All right. I would like to look at the cost analysis of the general fund expenditure. You can see that there are inflation that we need to include in the budget. Personnel cost is increased by about $1.8 million. As you know that we are having a 3% increase for the employee, and also the health insurance also increased. So those, the health insurance, we don't have anything to do with it because we have to pay it. So we don't have a choice for this. And the fuels and parts, we know that there's a 25% increase in the fuel. And the others, we have other increase because of inflation. So office supply, safety supply, chemical supply, computer supply, small tools, all those, we have about a 3% increase on these items as well. All right. I would like to share some light with the salary and the market comparison. And our Human Resources Director provided us with this information. That was to use the market rate of the position. You can see that most of the position are lower than the market. And these are the percentage, that is lower. So a 3% increase in the salary is not even enough to catch up with the market. And that's the reason why staff proposed a 3% increase in the salary. And that is not even enough to catch with the market. Okay, let's look at the debt service fund. And this is to pay the debt that we have, the existing debt for the general fund only. We do not include the water and the drainage debt service in here. And the sources of fund, the revenue is mainly come from the property tax. And we predict to have about $6 million for next year. This is including the 2018 general obligation bond. That is the one that we just issued a few weeks ago. We haven't even received the money yet. And also it includes the 2019 general obligation bond for the fire station. The amounts also already included in here. All right. The special revenue fund, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this consists of all the different funds, all the donation funds, and all the special aside revenue for the city. We have a fund balance of about $4.3 million, revenue about $3.7, expenditure total about $4 million, and we still have about $4 million fund balance. As you will see that the donation funds, we still have not have all the information on the donation, so we are trying to work hard and make sure that we will have the information before we close the year. So, but this is the original budget with the revenue and the expenditure. Okay, looking at the capital projects fund, as I have mentioned earlier, this is to build buildings, roads, and water system, and drainage system. So you can see that the fund balance is to start at the beginning of the year is about $19.4 million, and revenue 13, and expenditure 23, and which will give you $9.6 million at the end of the year. There are lots of projects that will be carrying out next year, and hopefully we'll be able to put this project on the ground. Okay, looking at the water and sewer fund, total revenue for this year is about $21.6 million, expenditure about $23.4 million. As for next year, the revenue is about $23.1 million. This is including the water and sewer rate increase. And the expenditure is about $24.9. The major increase, again, is we have to pay City of Fort Worth for the water and the sewer service. And so at the end of next year, we predict that we will have about $5.3 million, which is about 21% of the fund requirement. And for the drainage fund, we have a revenue of about $1.8 million for both years, and the expenditure about $2.3 for both years. And you can see that since we're using some of the fund balance, so since the number is small, so a little bit change, we have a high percent changes. So at the end of this year, we predict about 28%. At the end of next year, it's only about 20%, but that is above the requirement. Okay, summarize this a little bit. The major budget item we have salary increase 3%, and we add 2 police officers, 2 firefighters, and 1 park supervisor. And we are having a fire apparatus, and we also remodel Fire Station 1, Recreation Center, and Animal Shelter. We have capital expenditure over $23 million. And the water and sewer rate, water rate will increase by about 4.5%, and the sewer rate about 13.5%. And there are 2 items here. One is agenda item 4, and the other one is agenda item 5. And for the budget ordinance and the tax ordinance. So today is the first reading for both the budget ordinance and also the tax ordinance. And also the second reading will be on September 10th. And the adoption is also on September 10th. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Fung. Are there any questions from the council for Ms. Fung? Dr. Trong.
Ms. Fong, can you go back on the slide that pay scale for the Haltom City employee?
Which one?
Everything below market?
This is some of the market that is given to me by our Human Resources Director.
Okay. On your general fund, even we got 12.9 increase for next budget, right? With the same tax rate, correct?
Currently, the numbers reflecting are the current rate.
And if you use that number compared with the inflation, cost of living, you think that's enough to cover, or we still struggle below the poverty line?
I don't know whether we are below the poverty line or not, but with the current rate, we were able to fund some of the...
Yeah, can operate, but, not healthy enough.
I would say that we barely make it.
Yeah. The reason I want the public out there to see this one, everybody below the market pay. And I don't.
That's why it's
yeah.
difficult to retain employee.
And I hope
good employees.
that council consider something a little bit higher than the current rate, so we can at least keep our employee intact or stay with us a little bit longer. And on the other hand, I would like to see a little bit higher rate so we can move our city out of, I use the word, poverty. That's my comment. You know, I hope everybody look at that is the important issue. But by the way, I would like to ask Mr. Wayne. Yes, sir. Because we have two new council here, how do we vote on the tax rate? Do we have 1, 2, 3 times, or just one time? If you council not approve it, we have to go to effective rate. I want you to explain for the new council and the people out there. How many times we allowed to vote?
Well, you only need to vote one time if you have a consensus, but any tax rate that this council adopts tonight that's in excess of the effective tax rate will take 5 affirmative votes. That's by state law. The Texas tax code requires 60% of the city council to vote in favor of a tax rate if it exceeds the effective tax rate. So that's for starters. If you're going to make a motion to approve any tax rate above the effective tax rate, it's going to require at least 5 affirmative votes to pass. If you don't get the 5 affirmative votes, then we can look at other motions.
Okay, that's mean the first one, like I throw the number there, and everybody vote down. Then another council will bring another number up, right?
That's correct. Sure. If you get, as with any agenda item, there will be a motion. The mayor will ask for a second.
Okay.
And then he'll ask for discussion on it.
Okay.
And then after the discussion is through, if we don't have any substitute motions, then we'll vote on the first motion. And if it doesn't receive enough votes to pass, then the mayor will ask if there's another motion.
Thank you. That's awesome, because we have 2 new council here. I want to make sure everything correctly done. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fong.
Thank you, Dr. Trong. Are there any other questions or comments from the council for Ms. Fung? Ms. Nunn, Councilmember Nunn.
Thank you. I have a few. It appears that Haltom City we have the highest tax rate except for Fort Worth. Is that correct?
That's correct.
No, we're in the middle. That's just a small sampling of Tarrant County.
It's our surrounding communities in Bedford, Colleyville, Euless, Fort Worth. Am I correct or incorrect? Okay, okay. All right. So, also I wanted to look at, I'm just going to go through a few of these slides that you had put up that I had questions about. On the general fund balance, we have 28% projected at the end of this year. That's carried over, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that goes into the beginning fund balance.
You can see that 8.1 is carried to the next year as 8.1.
Okay,
and then we'll carry to the first.
So we did pretty good this year, correct?
We will do very good this year.
And in 2 more months, we're going to look pretty good. Okay. Then I had a question on general fund revenues. On the other revenues, where we're showing a negative 30%, would you explain that to me again?
Okay. Other revenue includes some of the one-time revenue that we receive, like a grant that is not in the grant fund, but is in the general fund, and also some reimbursements, like insurance reimbursement that you cannot count on next year, and that's why there may be reduction in there. The percentage is high, but you can see that the difference is really about $200,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
that's
so we're just not
cannot-
anticipating
Yeah,
that.
you don't anticipate some of the revenue that is one time.
Okay, okay, that answered that one. On the general fund revenues, let's see, where we have administration, city secretary.
That is the
There, that
expenditure.
one, okay. Couple questions on the fleet services. A percent change of 34.5%, is that anticipating the new police vehicles?
No.
No,
That,
okay.
the maintenance part, yes, but not the purchase, not the
Not the
capital.
purchase,
Not the
okay.
purchase. This is only the maintenance part.
Okay,
And also we have a 25%.
why is that up so, why is that up so much?
There's a 25% increase in the fuel cost.
Okay, it's fuel.
Yeah, and also parts as well.
Okay, all right. Okay, we did the fire. Okay, and then I have a question for, I think, Tony, if you would come up just real quick, about the salary and market comparison. Okay, this is pretty eye-opening. What cities did you obtain this information from? Were they within our area, like North Richland Hills and that, or where?
Okay, so the cities that we used were approved by the City Council when we did our salary survey in 2007. It includes North Richland Hills, Keller, Watauga, Hearst, Euless, Bedford, North Richland Hills, Southlake, Colleyville, Grapevine, Fort Worth for all positions except directors, and Arlington except for all positions except directors. These are just the most egregious ones. These are the ranges that are very far out of whack. The city of Haltom City and most other cities actually lag the market. So when you look at this data, this is what going into the new year would be, but it doesn't take into consideration the amount of increases that the other cities are going to have. We have bi-monthly meetings, and they're going to do more than 3%. Almost every city is. So, we already lag the market, and this is what it is with the lag. So the positions that are up there are just the ones that are the worst. Some positions are much closer to the market. The municipal court judge particularly is not typically studied, but it has been studied this time, and that position hasn't had an increase except for one time, and that's because that position is a contract position that reports directly to the city council, and it is a part-time position. Mm-hmm. So anytime we've been giving the 3% increases or 2% increases in the past, that position has not benefited from that increase.
Okay, looks like the library people are pretty lucky, huh?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
May I add something to one of these slides, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hold on. This one. I just kind of wanted to point out this, and this is kind of the challenge. I wanted to give this for the council to consider, but also for the benefit of the audience. Now, we have you pay, even though we have a higher tax rate, we pay less taxes than citizens in those other cities that we're talking about here, which is a good thing, and we're that's something we're actually proud of. But the thing to consider is that you can see how lean we must be. And again, I'm not saying that's not a good thing, but at some point in time, we have to be very, very careful because things like fuel or insurance and maintenance and repairs, and as we've just talked about, even personnel, we have to stay somewhat competitive. But when we buy something like a piece of equipment or fuel, they don't sell it to us cheaper just because we have a higher tax rate, but we have a lower amount of taxes paid per citizen. So it just, to compare, we just want you guys to know that we do run very, very lean. And so that's why that's important, is just because we still have to pay the same amount of money that that North Hills pays for a car, for example, or gas or those kind of things. So just wanted to point that out.
Right, but also, I mean, the reason it's low because the home values are low.
That's true. That's true. And that then therefore that's the challenge. And that's all I'm trying to do is point out so that, you know, I know it's a tough decision that you guys make, and the staff, we respect whatever decision you guys make. We're just wanting to see that that's, and for the sake of the audience, that is the balance we have to maintain. We have to give services, but the valuations are low. The rate may be a little bit higher, but you know, if you move to any of these other cities, you're going to be paying higher taxes even at a lower rate. So you know, I just wanted to point that out.
Because your home will be increased in value.
Correct.
Which is a choice you make.
That's right. And the good thing too is, I told in the last meeting, is that we've got a lot of good things happening, and down the road we're going to be in a lot better position, well, for councils to consider, you know, how far they lower rates or, you know, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Do you have any other questions or comments, Ms. Nunn?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
Councilmember Watkins. Yeah, we were going to wait till after this agenda item.
I'm going to give you some figures that don't make a whole lot of difference, but I'll have different figures on the 10th. What I did is, for the last week or so, I've been cutting out of the paper all these different cities and what their proposed tax rate. Well, we know that tonight we're going in with ours higher than we'll probably go for it. So all I'm telling you is where they are at this point. City of Arlington is projected to go down 0.005. City of Bedford, I don't know. I couldn't make out theirs. The last I heard, they were going to go up past the rollback rate and do that again like they did one time before. City of Benbrook stays the same. City of Burleson is staying the same, which, by the way, is 0.7350. City of Colleyville is going down 0.001334. Their tax rate's real low. Of course, their houses are worth, I can't remember, I saw someplace $750,000. City of Crowley, they're staying the same, which is 0.719000. Everman is going down pretty significantly, except for the fact that their proposed rate is 1.113943. I don't have any idea what their proper houses are worth or anything. It's just that they're up there over $1. City of Euless is staying the same. It's around 46. City of Grand Prairie is staying the same, and theirs is 0.669998. City of Grapevine is staying the same. Theirs is real good. My daughter enjoys it. It's down there under 30. Haltom City, that doesn't count, but here's an example. Ours is showing our proposed rate is 0.689261, and I certainly presume it's going to be less than that. City of Haslett is going down 0.027084. They've got a real low rate there as well. City of Lake Worth is going down 0.020114. City of Mansfield is staying the same. Their rate is 0.71000. City of North Richland Hills is going down a 0.005. They're at 58.5. City of Richland Hills is going down 0.008. Theirs is about 55.5. City of River Oaks is going to go down a little, but their proposed rate is 0.749400. Roanoke staying the same. They're down around 37 or 8. Who is this? Sampson Park. They're staying the same. 0.787304. I'm getting close to the end. South Lake is going down 0.015. they're the ones that said, there's one that I think houses was all worth 500. I think they're average around $500,000. Watauga's saying the same. They're at 60, proposed rate, 0.601788. And last, Westover Hills is going up 0.031, but they're going up from 0.33839 in there someplace. So that was, in answer to your question, it's not the exactly, it's just all I could pull up. All of these will change, just as ours will change after tonight. We'll go up or down. Well, we can't go up, but we'll go down. So on the, by the time we do this on the 10th, I'll have some new figures. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, I'll now open the public hearing at 8:26. Let's see here. We do have a speaker's request card from Mr. Jack Lewis regarding this.
Okay, Jack Lewis, 4600 Savelle.
Mr. You got 3 minutes, sir.
3 minutes. Thank you. I don't need that much, but I'm gonna take it. Mayor, council members, staff, listen to all these figures, and I have just a couple of. I want to thank the Public Works Department on a personal basis. I have seen, I heard in one of the other studies where they are short. I think they have about 13 or 14 positions not filled. And the reason I've noticed that when you were making the presentation and the salary ranges, and we see all these figures on the tax rate, everything is increasing. The July report was very good, and for the year looks good. And at this point, I would like for the council to consider this drainage fee on the drainage tax on the water bill. That was put on when the senior tax freeze took place in Haltom City. A few months after the tax freeze went in by vote of the people, the council turned right around and put a drainage tax on the water bill. And the senior citizens, they got the freeze on the tax. That's by the vote of the people statewide. The Constitution was changed to allow that. And we turned right around and put it on all of the citizens, senior citizens and disabled. We listened to some of the senior citizens in the previous meeting. Some of them at the end of the month, they have $1 something in the checking account. And I believe Rex mentioned something about they pay the same for a loaf of bread as a person making $200,000, using the same analogy I believe that you said. The city has to pay the same as North Richland Hills on services. But getting back to, I want to commend the Public Works Department and address the city employees' salary. 3% is good. The seniors do not get this. Now, they are in the $13,000 a year. And the minimum starting salary of most city employees, with the exception of a few, the Public Works Department, I would like to see the council in the future, I don't know if you can do it this year, consider raising the salary of the Public Works employees percentage-wise more than a person that's making $75,000, $100,000 a year. Now this is all over the country, all over the country. In a capitalistic system, you have 3 classes, and the United States is one. You have the rich, the poor, and the middle class. The middle class is shrinking. There's few going up into the rich, and a lot are going off into the poor because of the salaries of the people that are doing the work are so low, even the starting salaries. I think the Public Works is a particular, especially with the story about them leaving for higher pages. That goes on for 30 years. I've been down seeing this for 30 years. Same, it's almost like Andy Griffith. You mentioned, what's the Andy Griffith show? They won the council members.
Yeah, 1 minute, Mr.
Oh, I'll get plenty of time. Okay, but I would like y'all to consider this drainage fee. It would help the elderly and disabled But again, y'all have looked at all these numbers and figured anything above the effective tax rate is a tax increase. So we're going to have a tax increase, a water rate increase, a sewer increase. The drainage fee was increased from $4.89 when it was instilled, it's up to $6.81. That's about a third of my water bill. The sewer fund will go up, what, 14, 13%? That's about almost 70% of what the water costs. So we're seeing increases, and I would like to say, if you need to get some money, look at the expenditures, and I'll give you two examples. One, there's a sign down here at the Denton Highway in Stanley Keller. I'm going to run out of time. It says litter, 0 something. We don't need a sign that small. Let's look at the big item. Your street sweeper. I watched them go every year, what, $250,000 out of this year's budget, $250,000. Take that money and put it in salaries. Those street sweepers can't get down the street for cars parked. Every street in Haltom City, Gene Lane, when I'm coming down here, we spent $3 million building that street, and you can't get but one way right now. I just come down it. In fact, I thought about this road rage killing here in Haltom City this past week, right behind my house. I get mad when I have to stop and wait. It's almost like playing chicken to get through because cars are parked on the street. Now, there's a code that addresses that 2 or 3 times in our codes. We build a house, we have to have all-street parking. Businesses have to have all-street parking. Why do we let them store cars, trucks, everything in the street where you can't the streets are made for driving, not for parking.
Mr. Lewis, do you have any?
My time is up. Thank all of you, and thank you, the Public Works people. They do a real good job. Thank you.
Okay, again, this is an open meeting or public hearing for anyone wishing to speak regarding this agenda item. It's agenda item number 4. Yes, if you would just please state your name for the record.
Ronald Akins, and I'd just like to ask, if it keeps the effective rate and we don't increase, are we going to be able to maintain the maintenance on the roads and buildings at a level that won't cause deterioration that's going to cost us more in the future to bring the buildings and streets back up to a satisfactory level? Does anybody know?
Who would be best to answer that? Would it be Jennifer or would it be Rex?
It all depends on how the fund is allocated. So it all depends on what are the priorities. But I think that if the city council is trying to put the funding on maintaining the streets, then it can be maintained.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fowler, if you would just please, again, just read your name or state your name for the record.
Trey Fowler. Thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick questions. Ms. Fung, and if you can help clarify this, because I was trying to follow along with you. $420,000 is what we're going to be up in sales tax this year about? You have to go fast, I'll get cut off. I got about 418, 420. Okay, so we're receiving additional funds there that we didn't experience last year. On the fund balance, it says on you have 2018, you have 6.4 million, and then projected year-end 10.9. Is that correct?
Which one are you talking about?
The general fund balance. I'm assuming.
Right here. General fund balance.
Well, you're about 1.1 million difference there. Well, your proposed carry.
This one?
Right.
This is
Year-end.
no, this is the beginning of this year.
Right. And then
this is the end of this year.
Okay, but your carry, so we're experiencing an additional 1.1 million.
Yes.
Okay. So there's about $1.5 million right there. You projected 9.9%. You said sales tax for the first 7 months of this year?
That's the sales tax we projected at the end
Right.
of the year.
So if you could just explain the difference between the 5% and the 9.9. The 9.9 is actually for this fiscal year?
This is a 5% from here to here, 5%.
Okay. But your other, could you go to your other slide between the cities? Was the increase month to month? Is that what that was?
Which one?
City to city comparison
This
on
one?
sales tax? No,
That's not sales. Oh, you mean
sales tax.
that is. Okay, I can't find it.
While you're looking, if you could, I don't want to indulge too much time. One of the things that I'd like to ask you guys to consider, we compare different cities, and that's good, and I appreciate you looking that up, Mr. Watkins, but one of the probably truest measures of where a city is as far as their taxing is based upon the Texas Real Estate, I believe it's Texas Real Estate Commission, and the Mortgage Institute does a study. And they base the study on what percentage of your income goes towards your property tax. And I looked at every city in Tarrant County, and the average is right at about 2%. It goes from about 2.3 or so on the high side to down to 1%. Your cities like Westlake, your cities like Southlake, they pay $10,000 in property taxes, but they only pay 1% of their income because they pay a higher rate. Haltom City, we're at 2.09, which North Richland Hills, I believe, was 2.07. So when you're looking at property taxes, you have to look at it based upon your populace, what they make, not compared to, we need more money. I understand that, but there's a reason that the people's houses are worth $96,000 here. Okay, and I do appreciate that, but we're dead in line with where we're at the effective rate at the 2.09% with all the other cities in Northeast Tarrant County. They're all almost dead in line. So in saying that, one other question I had, we talked about this, we discussed a little bit at a prior meeting. The money that was set aside in 2016 that went from the economic development tax to 3.6, almost 3.7 million that went into the general fund. Where is that accounted for? That's one question. The other question, salary savings. We had 18 positions that were said that were in the public works, and I know a year or so ago they talked about putting that in for doing salary increases. I'm all for the salary increases. I have no problem with that. If we need to do 5% for employees, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Some of the other things I do, though, because I feel like we can fund the salary increases and we can fund some of the things without even touching the property tax. And so if there's any of this information, like I say, if you guys will just do your math and do your numbers, you'll see that there's money there. And in 2016, when that money went, 3.6 million went from the economic development straight into the general fund. Where was it accounted for? That money wasn't there in 2014 when we went and fixed the step plans, when we fixed the salary increases for the police, fire, public works, everyone else that hadn't had salary increases for 10 years. We didn't have that EDC money. Now there's $3.5 million in here, and you're asking the taxpayers to even add more. That's my only problem. You're talking about, I can show you $1.5 million right off the bat right here. That funds everything that we asked for without even considering the $3.5 million that was talked about from the EDC transfer. So that's all I ask, is just take that into consideration if y'all would, and understand that we're from a percentage we pay against what our values of our homes are. We're right in line with everyone in Tarrant County, right where we are at the effective tax rate.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Is there anyone else wishing to speak regarding this agenda item? Welcome. If you would, again, just please state your name for the record.
Cody Gamble. Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure if y'all can answer questions or not, but as Bob pointed out, that some of these houses in other areas, they're higher values, therefore your tax rate can be less. But also, as Ms. Fung brought out, like our tax-based revenue from sales of businesses that we have, we don't have a lot of quality businesses on this side of town, unfortunately. You've got to raise your standards to get what you want in this city. We'll take Lake Worth. Like a few years ago, it was the armpit between Fort Worth and Azle. And now you look at it, their city council made the tough decisions to bring that city up to speed. They have quality businesses, Home Depots, Lowe's, Kohl's, all sorts of other kind of businesses. And our citizens, we deserve the same. And I know those choices aren't easy, that y'all been charged with to make those decisions. But just think about where we want to go in the future, what kind of lifestyle that we want to have here in this city. And Dr. Trong, you said one time about Mayberry. Everybody loved Mayberry, but when you looked at the city itself, it was nice and clean and proper. They had a standard that they maintained. Unfortunately, sometimes here on this side of the city, our citizens don't maintain a certain standard, and it makes it hard for the rest of us that want to have that quality. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And again, if you would just please state your name for the record.
Stacy Corbin, 4505 Nadine. All right, a few things I want to cover real quick. Dr. Trong, I know you had mentioned and you had asked if they were below poverty level. I want you to recognize that probably a large portion of Haltom City residents are below poverty level. It's not just your city employees, it's your residents that are working below that level. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Real quick, I did want to touch on what he said. I do want to point out, Lowe's and Home Depot were already in Lake Worth. That didn't happen when they made those changes. Those businesses have been there for a long time. If we really want to bring businesses, we need to look at things that businesses look for. They look for low property taxes, and they look for economic stability. So maybe we need to look at what we can do to help our residents regain that economic stability. Don't get any better at this as time goes by. Just want to let y'all know. Sorry. Okay, one thing I want to point on real quick too. Let me just find it real quick. Fuel increase. With the Chevy Tahoes, is that right? Okay, we've got a 25% fuel increase. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the whole budget, I'm not going to put you through all that again. It's a pretty significant amount. So I did do some research last night. The Chevy Tahoe is a great option. There's a lot of awesome things about it. I know why our officers like them. They're good vehicles, but there's other options. There's also, of course, I'm nervous, so I can't find it. Ford Interceptor. Ford Interceptor Cruiser. Not only does it cost less, and that does include the outfitting it, but it also comes with ballistic protection, engine idle feature, and a silent mode. I don't know what the silent mode means, but the engine idle feature is actually pretty prominent. It gets really good gas mileage, probably 5 to 6 miles per gallon more than the Chevy Tahoe. So we might look at that just for overall fuel savings. We could save a little bit on the budget, which of course we could put towards increases in wages, because I also think our employees deserve a lot more money. I also think our citizens do too, though. Just want to point that out. Increases, 3% increase. I love the idea. I love our officers. I love our fire department. Would not want my child or my grandchild growing up in a city without great ones. Do want to point out, though, of course can't find anything because I'm nervous. Sorry. Oh, I don't know where it's at. Anyway, it's a large difference. The difference between a 2% and a 3% increase is $267,000, which I still think is a great idea. I just want to point out that that's progressive. That's not something they get one time this year. That's going to be in the budget every year from here on out, that extra $267,000. So what I thought, one thing we might look at, giving them to 2% increase, perhaps doing that 3% as a bonus. That way you can look at it every year. If you want to give them a bonus, you can still give them that 1% bonus. You still have the option, but you're not locked into it for every budget from here on out. Okay. I think my 3 minutes are about up, right? Okay. EDC. So actually, Trey touched on that. So the EDC funds, one thing I did want to touch on, I know we really want to use that money to pay down on some debt, but our debt's pretty significant. When I got my income tax, I really wanted to pay down on my car, kind of get that lowered a little bit, but my dad needed new windows. Those are expensive, by the way, if anybody ever needs to put windows in their house. So what I ended up not getting to do was pay down on my car. What I ended up having to do was put some windows in my dad's house instead. Not saying some of that money can't go, but it's not going to wipe the debt out. So essentially, we're already set up on a program to repay that debt in a certain amount of time. Maybe put a portion of it, another portion, which brings me to, we're actually looking pretty good budget-wise. We actually had a surplus this year. We're going to have a bigger surplus next year, even with all these changes. I just ask that you guys please consider the effective rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Watkins, did you have a question or a comment? Your light is on.
Almost forgot what it was. It had to do with Mr. Lewis. This is not a plus or a minus, or I'm for it or I'm against it. I want to point out that back when the senior tax freeze was voted on, it was voted statewide, and mainly the thing I had against it is after you vote for it, you can't undo it. I mean, we can't say yes and then change and come back, but that's beside the point. That's not my point. Is this the thing that I liked about the stormwater fee was the fact that churches and schools and everybody had to pay that. That to me was a plus, because it made up for the fact that on the property taxes and the sales taxes, this, that, and the other, the churches and the schools weren't paying anything. And not that I think church and school ought to be paying a whole lot of money. I'm just saying that when they put that stormwater fee on there originally, it helped, because there was more money coming in because of where all it was coming from. That's not a plus or a minus. That's just a fact.
Thank you, sir.
May I have equal time, Betty?
Well, only one time, sir.
Okay, well, no, on the drainage.
Mr. Lewis, there's only you already
Oh, I
spoke.
thought you was going to get...
No, I said you already spoke once. Everybody just
Okay,
had
on
one
the
time.
drainage tax,
Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
because
Okay, with that being said, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:48. And council, is there any questions or comments from anybody on the council regarding this? Okay, seeing that, we're in line for a motion. This is on the budget, agenda item number 4.
Okay, I would like to say that we finished the presentation. Now it's time for item number 4 for the budget. And we have a budget that is in front of you on section 1, which is the revised budget for fiscal year 2018 is $85,761 and $123. And then for next year's budget, right now the budget ordinance with $92 million, $401 and $105. So this is the budget ordinance, and I will ask the council to pass and approve the budget and the first reading. And the second reading will be on the 10th of September.
Okay, with that being said, we're now in line for a motion. Councilmember Nunn.
When do we talk about the actual budget items, you know, if we really need the items that are outlaid in the budget?
You mean go through them line by line, or just specific items?
Yeah, or do we just, I mean, don't we need to, we approve the budget first before we approve the tax rate?
Right.
That's right.
You approve a budget, then you approve the funding mechanism, which is the tax rate.
Okay,
But now-
so if there are things in the budget that I feel we could take care of next year, because I personally want the effective rate, can I discuss that now, or?
Yes, you may.
Okay, then I'd like to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, normally we kind of go line item by line item, and.
Miss Nunn, would you mind if we took about a 10-minute break?
I'd love
before we
it.
do? Okay, we'll take a
That'd be great.
10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 9 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
Slide to go with their budget that they're reading.
Okay, council, is everyone ready to go? We'll go ahead and begin our meeting.
Thank you. That's what you want.
Now reconvene. Regarding specific line items in our budget. Okay. If you would just please continue, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And this is kind of, I mean, it's kind of difficult for me to kind of express, I guess, what my issues or things are, because I do want to go with the effective tax rate. And if we do that, obviously, a lot of these things, or some of them, would have to be eliminated. And so if I feel uncomfortable with some of these items up here, then I feel like I probably should express my opinion, because I don't recall us really doing that during our budget workshops. So, and this is all I wanted. It wasn't the line item book. You know, I don't want to be here all night either. But just to give a few ideas on maybe what we could cut back on or wait until next year in order to keep the rate down. This is my opinion. Human resources, I believe we need that enrollment software. Fleet, I don't think we need the on-call pay. Building maintenance, vertical lift, I'm for the animal shelter. My understanding is there has not been anything done there. Last year we didn't approve anything for it. Police, I think how many are we down? 2 policemen, three, and then you want to add 4 more. Maybe we could go down to 2 on that.
No, they are down to 2.
You are down to 2 on that. So this has been cut. Okay, and the same with the firefighters. Got it. I see it up
This
there
is
now.
the funded amount. That's half of it is 2 police officers and then 2 firefighters. They asked for 3, we funded 2.
Okay, all right.
And Ms. Fung, can you explain what you mean by funded? You know,
That means in the budget right now that I presented is included. These are the amounts included in the budget.
and that's based upon which tax rate?
Based upon the 66818.
66818. So what the current rate is now?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so, but we're down 3. And how long have we been down 3? Most of the year?
We have been unable to be fully staffed for the last 5 or 6 years. As you recall, we haven't been fully staffed in a long time, but if you recall in my budget presentation, the estimated projection of growth of the city.
Right.
And the time frame it takes to get
For
those
training and
officers,
everything.
Yeah, to get in, to have those officers on the ground and fully functional by the time this population, the apartment complexes, the houses, and the businesses come in, we have to start planning, because we're already, just to meet the minimum standard that we're at now, we have to be at 84 officers.
Okay.
And so this 2 would only put us at 78, and 4 would only put us at 80.
Okay. Well, thanks for cutting back too. Okay. The fire apparatus, we just got a new fire truck. Can we wait maybe till next year for that? The brush, we have the CPR devices. Didn't we got a big high dollar?
I didn't propose to fund those.
Those 3 are not
Right.
funded.
So they're not funded. Okay.
And
All right.
just might save us some time in this deal. Just to let you know, Ms. Nunn, if we are at the effective rate, we won't be able to fund any of these. So just if that saves you some time going through all of them. But yeah, but at the right column, if it says 0, then we didn't propose.
Okay, so you wouldn't be able to fund anything at all?
No, ma'am, we'd actually have to cut something. If you just we talked a little bit about inflation before. If you just look at one thing, and it was the increase in insurance costs, we had an 8.75% increase in insurance costs that the council approved, I believe, at the last regularly scheduled council meeting. So just the increase in insurance is going to put us in a position where we have to spend more than the effective rate. So there wouldn't be any of these items picking and choosing. It would just basically be that they wouldn't be funded.
So nothing at all on that would be funded?
Nothing there, and also we'd have to figure a way to cover the insurance costs. We'd have to cut something.
Okay, I guess in my mind, I can't understand. Last year, we went up 9.1%, and we were able to do the 2% for the increases. We were able to keep the 2%. We were able to get a fire truck. We were able to get numerous other things, additional people. I don't understand.
We didn't go to the effective rate last year.
No, not the effective rate, but if we,
we were able to, if you remember last year, what the council did was the council approved the budget, and then you lowered the tax rate. And basically the discussion was, okay, we're not going to choose what to cut. We're going to let city manager cut it with, discussions with staff. So what we did was we didn't have that discussion out here. The budget was approved, but it wasn't funded. So we basically didn't. If you remember, we had in the proposed budget last year the animal services, the remodeling. We had some remodeling at Fire Station 1. So even though the budget was approved, we didn't have the funding for that. So there's been some talk. Why don't you put it off till this year? Well, we had to put it off till this year because it wasn't funded. But last year we didn't go to the effective rate, so we were able to do some things that were in the
right. Like I said, we increased it. Yeah, we increased 9.1%. But we also, just like you said, we're doing that again this time. We're voting on the budget, and then we're going to vote on the tax rate. Isn't that?
I don't make
Isn't that what
rule.
we wanted to do?
It's not my rule, but
is that what you have to do? Seems like it should be flip-flopped.
No, the budget process like that. Council give the objective and the goals for the staff, and then staff come up with the budget, and then with the budget, then we use that is how much money is needed for the city to operate, and then use that number to get the tax rate. So that is the way it's supposed to work. So if you approve the budget, then that's the tax rate is supposed to be. So
okay, all right, thank you.
So
then I don't
we need to get the
anymore.
budget first.
Thank you, Ms. Nunn. Dr. Strong.
Ms. Land, I know we trust your staff, and you're a city manager. You decide the money, how to move it, and council will approve the number, for you to operate the city next year. But only one thing on the park supervisor, seems like that number a little bit high, and do we really need that position now in the hard situation like this?
Well, I'll go back to what you first said. I propose a budget, and it's based on the strategic plan that I'm given by the council. So in 2017, you gave me a strategic plan. So when I meet with the department directors in February to prepare a proposed budget, the proposed budget that we prepare to give you in July is based on your strategic vision and your strategic goals that you have. I mean, I have them right here if you want me to remember them. And you do a resolution, which you did in 2017, and that's what gives me the outline to do a proposed budget. Okay, you want to accomplish certain things. For example, employee compensation. You've basically directed me as a council to give you a plan, a proposal for employee compensation. That's just one of the things. So what we do is we have budget workshops. We've had several budget workshops where you heard from each of the department directors. Christy gave a presentation, and she gave you her recommendation for the park supervisor, and she gave you a little a synopsis on why she believes we need that position.
Okay.
So that's what we do. That's why we have so many budget workshops, is we give the council an opportunity to alter this budget, or to talk about the individual items or whatever, and it also gives you an opportunity to hear from each one of the department directors. You know, I don't want you just hearing from me. You need to hear directly from department directors why they need these positions and these items. So.
Okay, thank you.
But that's where the proposed budget comes from.
Thank you, Dr. Trong. Are there any other questions or comment? Yes, Ms. Pruitt, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, Dr. Trong, that you understand that is not the base salary. That includes benefits and insurance and everything. It's a loaded salary. So their salary base is probably, Ms. Beckett can probably answer that better. It's probably in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, and then the rest is going to be benefits and insurance.
Thank you. And, you know, the reason I look at any big number, see if we can do something better, because this year I don't think my wish list will come true anyway, but, you know, I just try.
Understood.
Thank you, Ms. Pruitt. Councilmember Grow.
Ms. Fung, I have some questions. Okay, earlier in your presentation, you said we received 103% of our property tax.
Right.
So where did that 3% go?
The 3%, let me see if it's in our budget. It's not in the budget. It will go to the general fund.
Okay, so
It was still in the fund balance.
so it's in the fund balance.
Right.
So is that included in this?
It's
in
not
this?
because we don't know it will be when we did the budget, which is around in April.
Okay,
So you may have 3% extra on the
So
fund balance.
277,000, because that's what I did the number, so that's 277,000. So we could take that 277,000 and pick one of these things and say, okay, we can
Yes.
fund that with that.
Right.
Okay. And so the sales tax overage of your projected, or how,
It's already, the sales tax is correct.
so,
It's not over yet.
okay, say again?
It's not over.
It's not over, but it's what, okay. Okay, the figure's correct. So it's based, so what you projected, where we're gonna be at in sales
Yes.
tax,
Yes.
you're right on the money.
Right.
Okay. So property tax is the only thing that we've.
Over.
Over, okay.
Well, no.
So 200, we have 200, so we can knock 277,000 off that, which represents what? 1.5 cents ballpark?
About one penny.
Okay.
A little bit more than a penny.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
1.3?
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Grow. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Nunn.
Thank you. Okay, just reviewing, I've been on the council for 3 years, and this is my third budget meeting. First budget meeting, we came in, we had 18 meetings, if I'm correct. And there were several of us new to the council, and so it was very eye-opening and, you know, pretty, it was eye-opening. And we did go through basically line item by line item, and we talked about it. You know, do we need it? How old is this piece of equipment? How blah 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 blah. And it made you really aware of what we needed and what really wasn't needed and what could be, you know, for the next year. Then the next year, I think we had 2 budget meetings or 3, and I wasn't able to attend 2 because of whatever reasons. And we didn't do that again. And then this year, yes, we did have the directors come up and talk to us and tell us what they need, you know, what they needed, what they were suggesting. And then we asked a couple of questions, but we didn't go through and say, talk as a group together and say, you know, is this really necessary? Can we hold off for that? We didn't do that. And so that's kind of what my purpose was tonight, because I guess I really liked that first, you know, the first budget meeting that we did, because it really gave you a good insight as to fluff and need. And so, anyway, I just didn't feel that we really had that opportunity this year as a council to discuss these real specific things like we have in the past. Thank you.
Councilmember.
You have time before you have to, this is just the first reading of the budget. You have 2 readings. 2 more weeks. Yeah, you have 2 more weeks. You would have to have one next week.
Ms. Nunn, would you be interested in us having another budget meeting in the next week? Because we have to. Can you go over the timeline again with us, Jennifer?
This is the first reading of the budget ordinance and the tax ordinance, and even though we have it, we can still change it before we adopt it.
But we still have enough time. We could have another meeting specifically just to discuss the budget. We can get more in depth into it if you'd like.
I appreciate that, but I think it's up to everybody.
Of course, I mean, is that something that you would be interested in having?
It would be helpful, yes, but if I would just, get everybody else's opinion. Maybe everybody else just knows exactly what.
I mean, I can throw it out there.
What's going on
for everyone else? Is that something that y'all, as a group, do you think we need to have another budget meeting? Okay.
I would be for that.
Okay, we can certainly make that happen. Then we can.
I haven't heard from everybody.
The consensus is,
okay.
Yeah, we would have another budget meeting.
Okay.
Want to let everybody know that the next Monday from here is Memorial Day. Or Labor Day, excuse me, Labor Day. So we would have a holiday. You would have to post it. You would have to do it on the Tuesday, the day after Labor Day. I want to give that so everybody make a quick mental note of your calendar if you're going to be out of town on Labor Day or whatever. You can't do it this Thursday because we can't post an agenda. The nearest time you can do it would be this Friday if you want to have it on a Friday night.
Friday's good for me.
Friday all right with you, Ricky? Everybody else all right for Friday? Okay, what time would you like to, 6 o'clock sound all right? To get an early start? 6 o'clock Friday. Okay, we'll have just a budget meeting here.
Okay, Councilmember Watkins.
I don't remember whether it was the first year you were on the council, Ms. Nunn, or whether it was the year before, because you said something there that touched on what I brought up. I said something to the effect of, we discussed things like, here's the things we want, here's the things we need, and I said the third thing, and that's, to me, is the most important, is what you have to have. Lots of times you need stuff, but it doesn't make you difference whether you need it or not. I need a new truck, but that's until it quits, I don't have to have it. So anyway, I was just adding that in. I don't remember whether that was the year before, because it just stuck out at me that we were talking about, well, I really want this. Well, I can't help if you want it. Well, we really need it. And then there was this big discussion over what you need and don't need. It's really more important what you have to have.
Well,
and I don't care what night we have a meeting, I'll be here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so everyone's okay with that, a meeting on Friday. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this? Well, we're still in line for a motion. Dr. Trong.
Man, so I go ahead and make a move to the item number 4, propose budget on 2019 on CD ordinance number O.2018.024.03. First reading.
Thank you, sir. And again, all we're doing tonight is just adopting the budget, not the tax rate on this agenda item. On this agenda item.
Okay, so.
Agenda item number 4. All we're doing is adopting the budget.
It can be changed.
Councilmember Grove?
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. So we have a motion for approval on agenda item number 4, which is the proposed budget for fiscal year 2019. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if you would, please signify your votes. Miss Nunn?
She abstained, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Motion passes with 1 in opposition and 1 abstention. Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. Moving right along to agenda item number 5, which is the proposed fiscal year 2019 tax rate.
Okay,
Ms.
again, this is the second public hearing for the tax rate, and the city council proposed a tax rate, which is the rollback rate, which is the proportion of the M&O, that's maintenance and operation, at the rate of 0.4534, and also the INS rate is 0.235861, with a total of 0.689261 per $100 assessed value. And so this is also the first reading of the tax ordinance. So I ask the council to pass and approve this on the first reading today, and the next, that is the second reading of the tax ordinance, is on September 10th.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any questions or comments from the council for Ms. Fung? Dr. Fung?
May I would like to ask you, can you repeat again, make sure I understood that?
The rate now is the rollback rate. The M&O, that is for general fund, is 0.45340, and the interest and sinking INS rate is 0.235861. That is to say the total is 0.689261. That is the rollback rate. So this is the tax ordinance. This is the second public hearing and also the first reading of the tax ordinance. So again, the council can still change it. So, thanks.
Did that answer your question, Dr. Fung? Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Wayne, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Mayor, you may be going to the right place with this, but I just want to clarify, this is a public hearing tonight, and then after the close of the public hearing, the council will be asked to vote on the ordinance on first reading. This is the last public hearing on the tax rate.
Thank you, sir. Since there are no questions or comments from the council, I will now open up the public hearing at 9:25. Again, this is agenda item number 5, the proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2019. For anyone in the audience wishing to speak regarding this agenda item. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 9:26, and we're now in line for a motion. Councilmember Wiest.
So just a question to clarify, I can, whatever rate I think it needs to be, I can ask for approval on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Because we're in line for a motion. Wayne, did you want to?
Oh, go ahead, Walter.
That's correct. This requires a specific motion, but you can choose what tax rate that you want. I'm sure the finance director can get you that information if you want to make a
Jennifer can
motion
help
for a
you.
You
different
can
tax
give me
rate.
the rate, and I can give you the effective rate.
I'm looking at 2019 to be 0.653.
Say that again?
653.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, the sixth. Okay, So you are proposing 0.653, right?
Based on what I'm finding, that's about the closest we're going to get.
Right here.
Yeah.
So I already calculated, although it's not on your sheet because I did that before this rate come to my attention. So that will be a 0.02% increase. Okay, so the motion would be like that. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.653, which is which is effectively let me see, 6.56% increase.
What is it? 6 point.
It's right here. Is it 6 point?
It's 6.6.
6. Wow, that's
I don't know if
bad
I like that
number.
rate now.
That's a bad number. Okay. It's calculated already, so. 666.
Read it. Okay. She said is that 6.66?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I thought it's a 5, it's a 6. Yeah, it's a 6.
Thank you. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.653, which is effectively a 6.66% increase in the tax rate.
Yes, that's correct.
Dr. Trong?
I'm second, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval to adopt the tax rate of 0.653. Are there any questions or comments regarding this? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Motion passes with a vote of 5 in favor and 2 opposed. Thank you, council. Thank you, Ms. Fung, and thank you for everyone else involved in that, putting this budget together this year. Moving right along to agenda item number 6, our audit committee appointments. Just to refresh everyone, Bob, did you have a question or a comment? Well, right now, the current members on our audit committee are council members Nunn, Brown, and Grow, and Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Trong is serving as an alternate. Ms. Fung, did you have a question or?
It's fine.
Okay. Well, that's after this, Bob, the charter. Okay, so the question is, amongst yourselves, who is interested in serving on the audit committee? Now, if you need to, if you want Jennifer to kind of go over what the roles are, I mean, I'm sure you can certainly do that, or she can certainly do that. Yeah, Jennifer, do you mind just kind of going over briefly what it would be expected from any member of the
Okay,
audit committee?
for the audit committee members, they're supposed to meet with our auditors at least 2 times a year. One is before the audit, one is after the audit, and mainly is to look at the financials and so as to report to the council, as well as any other items that you want the auditors to be paying attention to. So basically, that's the role.
When I was a council member, I served on the audit committee for several terms. So with that being said, is there any, Councilmember Brown?
Yes, I would just like to say I sure don't mind if someone would like to take my place on the audit committee.
Okay. Would you, let me ask this, who is interested? It's probably a better way of phrasing it. Who would be interested in serving on there?
I'm a glutton for punishment, so.
Okay, Mr. Weist, let's see, Dr. Trong and Mr. Weist. Is there anyone else? We need 3 and an alternate, so. Okay, council members, so far, council members Weist, Trong, and Ms. Nunn.
Those are service members, and you pick somebody as an alternate.
Okay.
I'll be an alternate.
Okay, so there we go. If anyone would like to nominate, again, it's council members Weist, Trong, Nunn, and council member Grow as an alternate. Well, I mean, somebody's gotta make, I can't make the motion, somebody's gotta make the motion.
So moved.
Okay, so Bob made the motion for the appointment of, again, Councilmembers Nunn, Weiss, and Trong as members, and Councilmember Grow as an alternate. If you would please signify.
Second.
Do we need a second? Okay, we do need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Councilmember Grow seconds. I thought you had to ratify it. Let's vote, okay? If you would please signify your votes. Councilmember Brown. There we go. Motion passes unanimous, and thank you for those willing to serve. Now, Bob, agenda item number 7 is a Charter Review Committee selection. Mr. Camacho, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, sir. The council passed at the August 13th meeting to create a charter review committee. And in section 2, it states that you're going to have 9 members. We did change it from the one previously that we did in 2015. You're going to have 9 members. They will all have voting power, unlike that they had with the chair. And the council was supposed to pick one person each of their own choosing, and then join together to pick one person to be selected by the council. So this, and accordingly to the resolution, they want to get started on this on September. So it needs to be done. Either make your selection of your personal selection tonight, and then we need to pick somebody out of the group to be the council's decision as a whole.
Thank you, sir. So with that being said, does everybody have someone that they would like to? You do?
If you have someone, at least we can get the first group, and then if we have to wait till the September 10th to verify it, but if you already have someone, let's go ahead and get that selection down.
Councilmember Nunn, did you have a question?
I'm hit the wrong button. Okay, I have somebody in mind, but I haven't talked to them about it to see if they were interested.
Or we can either, you can wait till the next meeting if you'd like, and then.
Okay, I'll
make
wait
sure
till the
that
next
somebody that-
meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, unless that holds all this up.
Well, let's see, Dr. Trong. Sure.
I would like to nominate Mr. Don Lee Master.
Okay.
And Mayor. Yep, yeah, personal election.
Do we want to ratify these one at a time, or just go through and do them all? Okay, do them all together. Okay. Okay, so we have Don Lee Master, Councilmember Thompson. You're next in line here.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Steve Chapman.
Okay, Don Lee Master, Steve Chapman, Councilmember Weist.
My nomination is Chris Bethel.
Okay, Chris Bethel. Councilmember Grow.
Marion Hilliard.
Marion Hilliard. Okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Watkins.
Bill Lanford.
Who was that again? Bill. Okay, Bill Lanford. Okay. And mine would be Suzanne Norris. So, Mr. Brown, you'll wait till the next meeting. Is that correct? Okay, sure. And Ms. Nunn, at the next meeting, you'll, okay. Sure, so we have all those names. Do we need to read them back?
Okay, Mayor, we have for Dr. Tron, his selection is Don Lee Master. For Linda Thompson, her selection is Steve Chapman. For Brent Weist, his selection is Chris Bethel. For Walter Grow, his selection is Marion Hilliard. For Bob Watkins, his selection is Bill Lanford. For David Averitt, Mayor Averitt, his is Suzanne Norris.
Okay.
But we'll go ahead and take a vote on these that have been appointed.
If you would please ratify with your votes. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, council. Moving right along, we're now at our visitors and
Mayor, let me ask, does anyone have the one person to select that everybody could vote on?
you're right, sorry about
It has
that.
to be one person from the council together.
This will be the 9th person.
For the at-large, I'd like to nominate Layla Caraway.
Layla Caraway for the at-large. Okay. Does she know about this? Okay. Probably a good question. Okay. It's probably a good question to ask. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll
for
second
Layla
that.
Caraway? Okay. Well, she's not here tonight to defend herself, so I guess she's gonna be on it. Yeah. That's what happened. Okay, if you would please signify your votes. This is for Layla Caraway as the at-large. I didn't say that.
Mayor, you can vote on this too.
Okay.
All right, now we're done.
Now, okay, moving right along to the Visitors and Citizens Forum. For anyone in the audience wishing to speak tonight regarding anything? Okay, seeing none? What's that?
Did you have a form turned in up here? Okay, hold
You
on.
do?
Yes.
Oh, okay, if you would just please come,
Come on up.
come on up.
We. Where's she?
Is that her?
Are you Paula?
If you would just please state your name for the record.
Paula Lindsay. I just had a couple of things. I was listening when I came in at 6, and I was listening to the work session, going into the regular session. I feel like we kind of get a slap on the hand for what we were asking. When we come in and ask questions or talk to you about something with the visitors with this forum here, you're telling us in that if it's not on the agenda, you're not allowed to actually answer anything back to us, so we can't really ask you a question. We're just asking something to you, or we're just telling you how we feel. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yes, other than, since it's not posted on the agenda, if you raise an issue, then the council can't discuss it with you. If you're just asking a question like how many police officers does the city have, they can give you a factual response to that.
All right, so
But otherwise, we can't talk about it. But yeah, this is your opportunity to tell the council concerns you've got that you want to raise, and unfortunately, they can't discuss them with you because it's not posted.
Okay, then I have a big concern here. What was in that session? I've been to the last 2 or 3 council meetings and the extra council meeting that we had, and I apologize, I don't know the exact name of everything. What you told us about that, there are a lot of things and a lot of that's not a good word. There are a lot of rules and regulations that we have to follow. So basically, when we come up here and it's not on the agenda, we're wasting a whole lot of time. We can give you a lot of information, especially the water thing with Fathom. It's like it's basically to hopefully someone would be listening to us. It would be nice if in one of our meetings, I guess if we had to put it on the agenda, however we have to do that, for some of the rules to be told to the public that's here. I'm sure if the ones that watch it can see it, but if they're not, then what you told us, I learned quite a few things that I jotted down on my notes that we're not supposed to take notes for, that you told us that we could or couldn't do, and I was very surprised. There's several of us that we did not know were the actual rules and regulations. So that I won't overstep my boundary on, but it would be nice if the public knew that, and it could be something we talked about if we have to put it on an agenda. And the 72-hour thing with the agenda. This is a big problem I have here. We know, and this city has been crazy over our water bill with Fathom. We can go online now. Thankfully, someone has helped me, and I've got that taken care of. I'm still having some major issues with it, and a couple of things that were told. But on this, why, if we know as a city, and you know as council members, that we are having, and all of the residents that are here, if you know it is a problem that is not resolved, why is it not on the agenda every meeting to satisfy your residents? Okay, you can't answer me now because it's not on the agenda, correct? Right? Okay. So that's a concern. So I guess we have to call, somebody has to call 72 hours before every meeting to talk about Fathom. Now we've got a third party coming in and we're talking about our budget. Where's the money coming from for this third party? For the billing on this Fathom? And then you're talking about social media with anything that's been on the internet that we've been hearing on Fathom also. That's a big deal if it's some things are true, some things aren't true. I don't know. I can't say what someone is or isn't, but I know things for certain. And for us to get someone's water to get cut off for $1.67, that's wrong. Especially when, and I personally, I can speak for myself, have been paying for 3 months an overcharge that they've never reimbursed me for. It may not be a whole lot, but it is to some people. And that's not fair. That is not right. So if our water cannot be on the agenda, I will call every three days, 72 hours prior to every meeting to put it on the agenda. So we can talk about it and we can ask y'all questions and you can answer them and it not be breaking the rules that we have for our agendas. That may sound a little bit tacky, I don't mean for it to, but we're all up here, the last couple of meetings, the people who come up here and say things and we ask you questions and you can't tell us anything. So that's with the water, but so I will make sure it's on the agenda so we can. A question, I'm not sure about this budget, and if I tried to say something, but y'all didn't see me back here, so it may be too late, but just a question. We have asked, there's been several people asking, I believe that Trey also said, when we're budgeted, and you've got, for the last 6 years, I know at least is what I was told, that, and I did a little bit of research, that we have not been fully staffed in several of our departments. If we have 16 people gone here, water department here, you know, we were given a number last week. What happens to that money? That money for that particular, I know you can't answer me because it's not on the agenda unless it's part of this. I don't really know if it would fall in this category. That money that's left over for the salaries that were not paid, where does that money go? Does it sit idle in that department? Does it sit, I may be very dumb here because I don't know how this works, but we're talking about a budget that we're trying to get different things done. And if that's the case, the last 6 years, if every one of those, unless each year y'all decided to move it somewhere else, does that have to be approved by the city? Do y'all do that as council members? Where does that money actually go? We asked this 2 weeks ago. The question was never answered. And that could have been answered according to the laws that by the 6 o'clock meeting, that could have been answered 2 weeks ago. I will go back and find out the exact details so I can make sure that I can get it. But that question could have been get answered there. But a lot of us are wondering, we've got a budget. I'm all for tax raise. I'm all for, excuse me, not tax raising. I'm all for price. Heck, what am I thinking here? I just lost it. I'm all for giving us an increase in pay. Okay, not us, but our employees an increase for pay. I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry. An increase on the pay. But taxes, I'm not. But where is this money going? And if it's in a budget, then, and just like I was saying, like I've taught today about this budget, okay, it's what we need, what we want, what we have. Sounds to me like I'm going to go pick me up a truck off the dealership, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. So it's kind of, I'm like Ms. Dunn said, it seems like it's flip-flopped a little, and I don't understand that. And another thing that was said a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, about 1 minute, ma'am.
1 minute, okay. Is we were told, and we were more or less bragging that we have the water cutoffs are less. Those are cut off because people are scared. They're paying bills higher. They've got people helping each other pay the bills that are higher. And this I do know for a fact, that some are helping others. And I don't feel like we've been given an honest, I know this third party is supposed to take care of it, but on this third party that's coming in, and I don't know how, someone will have to tell me how to do this, you know, if it's the city knows that if the third party knows the city council believes they're correct, Fathom knows they're correct, our residents going to be able to be involved in that with that audit, helping make those decisions, or at least seeing it. Because otherwise you're going to be at square one. They're not going to be happy with the person you've audited and the money that we've paid out for it, if that makes any kind of sense. That was just brought up to me. Someone asked me to say that too. So anyway, if I made any sense. But thank you for your time very much. So.
Thank you. You have a great, thank you for your comments. Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Phelps.
Council can't respond, but staff can respond a little bit. I did want to tell you that as far as the budget goes, that's budgeted into the budget, those positions, even if they were, some of that was budget salary savings because of positions weren't filled, but that is carried over every year because they're approved in the budget, and that's the authorized strength. So if there's nothing that's not spent, then that goes into reserves, and we have reserve requirements, but so we try to keep the reserve where it needs to be. And as far as the third-party company, that's probably going to be paid out of reserves. So I just wanted to answer those questions. And if you got a specific question about a specific account, anybody, they can contact me or Sadana, and we will walk them through. We'll come to their house. We'll meet with them, sit down. So I just want to let you know that if you have a specific complaint, I'm talking about water account, let us know. But it came very apparent that for the objectivity that the third party would be good, and the citizens would appreciate an objective set of eyes looking at that. So
What were the salary savings line this year? What's projected?
well, I'd have to go back and look at that. I'm just telling you whatever there are in salary savings, it goes into the reserves. And if you remember, it wasn't too long ago, our reserves were well under what was recommended, and so, or what's required. But again, right now they're not. But I'm just letting you know where it goes. That's all. Okay.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak regarding or during this visitors and citizens
Well,
forum?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman-
I just want to, if we can get Wayne's PowerPoint on the website, so that way it could be in the council area, so if somebody did have a question about what the open meetings and the information is available, and they could view the video. Oh, yeah, and they'll be able to view the
That would
video.
help to let the PowerPoint out, let people look at that, and if they have more questions,
Yeah.
we can address those. And Ms. Lindsay, we are going to have one more public hearing on the budget on September 10th, and a lot of the questions you asked are questions you can bring up at the public hearing, and you can get responses at a public hearing to your questions. So if you're available to come back on September 10th, that'd be a good opportunity for you to raise those issues.
Thank you. So moving right along, there's no future agenda items to discuss. We have no resignations. Any appointments or reappointments? Councilmember Weist.
Thanks, Mayor. For the Fire Service Board vacancy I have, I'd like to nominate Elizabeth Dunbar.
Thank you. Elizabeth Dunbar for the Fire Service Board. If you would please ratify with your votes. Okay, there it goes. Thank you. Motion passes. Are there any other appointments or reappointments?
Yeah, I think there's a resignation.
I did not see that.
Well, it,
Okay, excuse me, there's
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
see-
Julie Barron.
We did have Julie Barons. That she resigned. She has just not showed up for any for any board meetings on the beautification board. So Christy Pruitt has asked for the council to take action on either reappointing someone. She's placed 8. But she just, if there's someone to appoint to this, because she just hadn't been attending, we have not heard from her.
Okay.
Okay, we can do that at the,
So that is the resignation.
okay. And there is no attendance to excuse. With that being said, we'll adjourn at 9:51.